Has it been 10 years though? I think it has been 10 years. And the reason I talk about this is that it shows the absolute power and dominance of corporate media. It shows that if you want to change society, the only way you can do it is if you have money and connections. Like, you need to be a billionaire and start a mainstream media company, and then you can actually have some freedom of speech and you can write whatever you want, and you can shape society. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is that, for those of you who don't know, Anita Sarkeesian has been exposed many times to be an activist. Like, she advocated herself as a game critic, and the people in the media portrayed her as such, ignored every single controversy about her, and only promoted the narrative that they enjoyed. So, for example, one of the controversies about her was that she was lying to people. She claimed that she was a gamer, she enjoyed playing video games, but then a video about her came out where she stated that she never played video games, and the media completely ignored that. The media ignored the fact that 90% of her criticism was about social issues, and only 10% of her criticism was actually about video games, probably even less than that. But still, they consider her to be a gamer. Even though, like, up till this day, there is no footage of her ever playing a video game. Which is kind of funny, because, like, there's so many other women who have the same opinions as her, but they actually play video games. And they could have chosen any one of them, but it shows that this is not a meritocracy. It's all about connections. It's like if you can grease hands with important Hollywood personalities, if you know people in the media, that's how you actually get to do activism. It doesn't matter if you're the correct person because, you play video games and you love the hobby, but you also happen to have the correct ideas. No. So anyway, driving the news. Right, like, again, the moment the mainstream media dropped Anita Sarkeesian is the moment she just stopped being relevant. I mean, now, if I'm not mistaken, she's got a YouTube channel and she barely pulls any views. Because the mainstream media isn't propping her up. Like, a lot of people said this lie that, oh, well, if YouTubers would stop talking about her, then she would become irrelevant. No, like, YouTubers never managed to make her famous. It was the mainstream media. And people donated to her. I think, like, they donated millions of dollars to her. But whatever, by the way, watching this video, I assume you know the controversy. I'm not going to go into it. The past 10 years have been a grim reminder of how ubiquitous and pernicious racism, sexism, and transphobism can be in this industry. Well, if you have a free country, which is legitimately free, yeah, you're going to have communists, you're going to have fascists, you're going to have environmentalists, you're going to have vegans. Like, all types of ideologies exist if you have a population of 300 million. I'm just saying, but if you want fascism and you want to mind control people and decide what people are allowed to think, yeah, then you're not going to have any of them. And it's like, our great revolution is under peril because the counter-revolutionary is always behind the corner. We need to be vigilant and defend our brave society. We need an army of snitches and a secret police that's going to make sure that there is no wrong thought. Like, that's kind of the ideology that she was promoting, which is why she's called authoritarian. But anyway, like, that's besides the point. And by the way, like, there is always more work to be done. I mean, even now she claims that there is still racism and transphobism. I am willing to bet that if we had the fast forward button to 2,000 years in the future, and she would be placed in power, and all of the changes that she wanted would be done, there would still be racism and transphobism. Why? Because without racism and transphobism, activists like Anita Sarkeesian are irrelevant. So imagine the horror of such a world. Imagine how it would be a world where not a single person out of 200 million people is a racist. I mean, like, they wouldn't want that, obviously, because then they would have nothing to talk about. Of course, they talk about her Kickstarter. They don't mention the fact that the deadline wasn't met. They don't mention the ridiculous amount of money that was raised, and they can't even justify how they spent it. They don't mention the fact that she hasn't paid any of her co-hosts. Like, notice the power of the media. Like, it doesn't have to lie. It just has to omit things. And by omission, they create the narrative. During Gamergate, Sarkeesian was one of several women specifically targeted. Again, like, this is just an assertion. They have no proof. Like, the FBI hasn't found anyone. No one has been arrested. No one has been convicted. And in reality, I know game developers who have been targeted and harassed by Anita Sarkeesian fans. I know people who got fired because of Anita Sarkeesian fans. Notice how this is not part of the narrative. No, it's not even mentioned. I can go up, look for it, and bring you some examples, if you will. I know the time when Anita Sarkeesian actually attacked the creators of Dying Light. So, in Dying Light, there was this character called the Scorpion. And she was the product of 3 women. Like, the company called not 1, not 2, but 3 women to design this character. But at one point in the game, this character is being kidnapped and you have to rescue her. So Anita Sarkeesian, oh my god, my tropes. And she attacked the developers who are all women. You're not going to notice this here. You're not going to... And by the way, the fans of hers as well, very radical people. She continued her prominent critic and force of change. Oh, and by the way, they don't talk about the conflict of interest either. Like, she was part of an organization that helped game developers be less sexist. So, in other words, like, she would criticize a game development company for being sexist. And then she would also offer herself as a consultant for that company to make the criticism go away. None of the controversy mentioned. The power of the press. Man, like, if you have money, you can lie as much as you want. You can manipulate people. You can influence people. There is no terms of service if you're part of the press. She then said in her talk with Tropes that it helped create conversations. Man, it helped create monologues. Like, let's be honest, there was no input. There was no comment section. There was nowhere where the actual consumer got to speak and get to be heard. It was, no, like, there was a monologue from the activists to the game developers. And the activists had an army of extremists that would harass the game developers unless they gave in. Developers have approached Sarkeesian to express their regret and ignorance over including harmful stereotypes. Yeah, I mean, imagine that. If you get fired, you do all sorts of crazy things. So it's like, apologize or you get fired. And all of a sudden, people are like, okay, well, I guess I have to apologize then. I'm not here to be your feminist priest and grant you absolution, Sarkeesian said. Oh my fucking god, it's literally like a quote from the Bible, you know? And Jesus said up to them, I'm not here to be your priest, but I'm here to tell you that you can be better. By the way, be better is code word for bend to the left. That's literally what be better means. Do what the leftist activist tells you, not what the leftist activist does. You know, like in the beginning, she talks about racismus. Notice how, if you look at the video games she was complaining about, overwhelmingly, a high number of video games that she was complaining were from Japan. But she's for multiculturalism and she's anti-racism. But she doesn't like Japanese games. I mean, Bayonetta, for example, is made by a Japanese... She doesn't like that game. Fascinating, isn't it? In one hand, I hold trauma, fear, and anger. Like, again, remember this. A woman makes millions of dollars on the internet, and because of mean comments, she has fear, trauma, and anger. How does a police officer feel? How does a soldier feel? I mean, look, I understand. Mean comments are traumatic. I get them every day. I used to get them from her fans. It traumatized me. It shook me. I was literally afraid. I was going cuckoo. But I wouldn't say that it's the same like a police officer or, oh, what, you know, who the left likes the most? A doctor treating COVID. Can you imagine the fear and trauma? And he doesn't make millions of dollars. But like, again, the paper isn't challenging any of her assertions. Like, she can assert whatever she wants. And she's never going to be challenged. I have yet to this day witnessed a single event where Anita Sarkeesian has a debate with anyone that disagrees with her. Because she will say, oh, no platform for bigots. Okay, but like, is there a person that's not a bigot and disagrees with you? No, of course not, because she's like Jesus Christ. She holds the truth. So, it's really interesting. And the reason I made this video is due, like, not to bring attention on her, but to show the absolute power and dominance that rich people have when they create a newspaper. Although progress has been made, the industry itself is nowhere near equitable. It will never be equitable. Absolutely never. And notice, like, since the progress has been made, the decline in video games, like, massive decline. in quality, and not just like in storytelling, but like the number of bugs, the number of glitches and issues, and all of this is because companies are focusing more on the message than the quality of their product. They are more worried in pushing the narrative and making sure that they fit all the checkboxes than to release a game that's working on day one. I mean, Blizzard is the perfect example. When World of Warcraft was really bad and people were unsubscribing, they didn't do anything about it. The moment the message was affected, they stopped their production on World of Warcraft in order to reassess. And they changed the people in charge of the company. So in other words, like it's kind of like you can be an actor that's really, really bad or a writer that's really bad, and that's fine. Like they will still promote you, they will still put you out there. But the moment you said the racist joke, you're over. Because like the message is more important than the actual work. Let me know what you guys think. And I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.